Not just football with Cam Heyward.
Out in the middle of the cornfields there?
Now,
Are they in Field of Dreams? Or where are they? Where were they?
Let me just say this, because it's one of my pet peeves. Hey, Cam, what you said was not taken out of context. What you said was properly and accurately relayed to the world. Isolating a quote is not the same thing as taking it out of context. Taking out of context means taking something that you said, ignoring the broader context in which it was spoken, which changes the meaning of the quote. When you say you either want to be a Steeler or you don't, when you're talking about Aaron Rodgers, there's no context that it's unfairly being taken out of. That's what you said. It just drives me nuts when people use the out-of-context card.
Yeah, it's the
Nothing was taken out of context. He said what he said.
Right.
He said what he said.
Right.
There was frustration.
Rodgers basically showed that. I mean, yeah, you said what you said. I saw that. I saw it. It hurt me, whatever. You didn't know me, and you had preconceived notions, right? So that kind of like right there squashed your, out-of-context excuse right there, because Rodgers is basically saying, nah, you said it. Like, that was it.
Well, and it ultimately was Mike Tomlin's fault, because Tomlin does this kind of wink-nod deal with Aaron Rodgers, and Tomlin knew all along, Omar Khan knew all along, that Aaron Rodgers is going to come to Pittsburgh. But for everyone else, it was like, what are we doing here? What kind of game are we playing here? We're waiting indefinitely for a 41-year-old quarterback who was 5-12 last year, who was rejected by the Jets, for crying out loud. We're waiting for him to tell us what he's going to do. We're the Steelers. We got more pride than that. That was the concern from the fans. It's the concern. That's why Cam Heyward said what he said. You either want to be a Steeler or you don't. So I think that, and look, I think Tomlin's smart enough to know what the impact of that is going to be. He just wanted Aaron Rodgers. He was willing to sign the paper, to agree to the terms, to make sure he got Aaron Rodgers, even if it meant creating the perception for a couple of months that the Steelers were acting in the way that the Steelers never act.
Yeah. No, I think so. I mean, like we were saying at the time, he's going there. We know that. It's going to happen. It is. But we weren't sure exactly what was going on in his personal life, right? But I knew enough people connected to this situation knowing it was going to happen, but he didn't officially say it, right? And obviously they kept it under wraps pretty well there to not tell the whole football team. And hey, I understand Cam Heyward too a little bit. He's going, like, this might be my last 2 years in the NFL. Damn, I want a quarterback. I'd like to make one run here deep into the playoffs instead of just getting there and being one and done, or just being on the fringe and not getting in at all. So he feels that. I'm sure he was a little anxious and had anxiety that way there. But all in all, at least they put it behind them, and we'll see where they go from now, and we'll see what they look like when they get out in the field in week 1.
I think the best explanation for what happened was the simplest one that was shared with me as it was occurring. A calculation has been made that Aaron Rodgers is less of a distraction if he's not on the team at all and not participating in the offseason program than if he's under contract and he's not showing up for the voluntary stuff. This was a middle ground where he doesn't sign until the eve of the mandatory minicamp. He misses all of the voluntary stuff, and there aren't the endless questions of why isn't Aaron Rodgers here. He's either a Steeler or he's not. Why isn't he here? It was just better for him to not be a Steeler at all and to wait until mandatory minicamp, and Tomlin was willing to do that deal. Look, Tomlin's been willing to do various deals with Aaron Rodgers, including not requiring him to play in the preseason. Rodgers doesn't want to play in the preseason? Fine by me. Anybody else? Play. Rodgers, hey, he's got the experience. That was the explanation he gave last week to Steelers.com. Well, you have to factor in all the reps he's had and what's right for your players. What's right for some players may not be right for other players, and I'd be stupid if I didn't factor that in. And bottom line is Aaron got what he wanted. And how that may have been part of what they negotiated during those 6 hours that he showed up on the first Friday of March Madness, and ruined everyone's enjoyment of watching games all day, because this is the day Aaron Rodgers decided to show up and spend 6 hours here. That may have been one of the things, because Aaron Rodgers is thoughtful enough to say, this is what I want. I don't want to I don't want to do this until the offseason program is over. Oh, you know what? The preseason, don't even get me started on that. I don't want to play in the preseason. I just want to make sure you're on the same page with what I need before I sign this contract. Why wouldn't he do that? So, again, that's the bargain you make when you do this deal. And Mike Tomlin did some things that are very un-Mike Tomlin-like to do this deal.
Yeah, well, they had to. They were desperate. They're desperate, like we talked about at the time. They had put themselves in a position where they really had no other options, no other viable option that you would say, oh, if we got this guy, we'll be competitive or maybe can go to the playoffs and win a playoff game and do all that. So they put themselves in that corner to where they basically had to adhere to Aaron Rodgers' rules and all that. You know me, I don't love it. I don't love it. I think you should be playing. I think it's stupid to just go out there week one the first time with Aaron Glenn, that defense. You don't know how they're going to attack, and they're talented as hell, the Jets defense, and they have to deal with the crowd and the extra incentive that it's Aaron Rodgers and it didn't go well with us and that fan base is going to be crazy. I mean, to me, that's not a recipe for success. To me, that's where, again, maybe Rodgers and he doesn't want to be out there yet because, of course, yeah, he just got there a few weeks ago. He maybe doesn't feel totally comfortable. He wants to wait till he feels like he can put the best version of himself out there, and that's where you get back to, well, if he gone to OTAs and maybe he was, a part of the team then, maybe he'd be a little further down the road right now. And I lean back to, why would you want to go through those jitters to start the game? And Aaron Rodgers has been jittery the last few years. That's just the fact of the matter. You talk up in Green Bay at the end, they'll go, jittery. You talk to the Jet coaches that were there with the Jets, jittery. Not sure he's going to hold the pocket. And now we're going to get in first game, new offense, the Jets, the fan base, all that. I have a hard time thinking it's going to be calm and cool and Aaron Rodgers that we saw in Week 15 last year. So that's where I don't love that. And, of course, we know how competitive the AFC North is and the AFC in general is, to where I don't think you got time to get your feet underneath you for too long in that conference right now.
Think about this. In 2.5 weeks, he's going to go back to the stadium that was his home stadium for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
He's going to come out of the tunnel with the same collection of fans that have been there for the last 2 years. But he's going to be wearing the other uniform. And who knows how creative the signs are going to be? Who knows what kind of things are going to be yelled at him? You think Geno Smith was sufficiently motivated to go double-barreled middle finger when he returned to Seattle for a preseason game? What do you think those folks in New York, those Jets fans, are going to have cooked up for Aaron Rodgers to welcome him home? So I wouldn't want that to be the first time I'm wearing a Steelers uniform on a game day.
I wouldn't.
I'd want to go through that one time. So that's one less thing that I got to worry about on the day that is going to be deja vu in a bad way for me. And I'm going to have to overcome that as I go out to play a week one game on the same shitty turf where I tore my Achilles tendon 2 years ago. I want one less thing that's going to be unsettling that day. Playing in a game for the Steelers for the first time ever is that one little extra thing that I just don't need. It'd be different if they were starting in Cleveland or Cincinnati or at home. They're going back to the Jets week one. I think it's a mistake. I think it's a mistake.
Totally.
And we'll see what happens. Hey, maybe they'll win 38-10 and it'll be, it was exactly what we planned.
Yeah.
And shut up, haters. I just think it's a mistake.
Yeah, I do too, at the outside looking in. But maybe they know something more than we don't. Maybe Tomlin and Rodgers have been feeling really good about how the offense is going, and they feel like they're in a good place. I don't know. But, I lean back to what I said to you the other day when this subject came up and where we are right now in the NFL. Now, minus, Lamar Jackson, he'd be one up there. But I think you're seeing, playing's important. Sloppy play has been a real thing in September. Injuries in September have been a real thing. All because of not the proper, we played football, conditioned, ready to go, and got all that stuff in training camp. And that's where, you look at it right now. Joe Burrow's playing. Mahomes is playing. He's always played. He's going to play again this week, it sounds like. right? So, yeah, I don't understand that. Tom Brady, as we talked about, the last few years in Tampa Bay, I mean, nobody had more experience than him ever in the history of the game. And, damn, he was playing. So I don't get it either, Mike, but we'll see, and maybe they'll shut us up that week 1 and win that game, like you said, 40-10, and we'll have nothing to say.
For the preseason, we'll still find things to say. For the preseason finale, the Steelers will not be playing DK Metcalf, Cam Heyward, TJ Watt, or Aaron Rodgers. It sounds like everybody else is in play. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.